Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: annual data request handled with automation until new boss requested same data. Received data exactly as requested, causing her to miss lunch and team's ire. The second story: HR scolded the worker, saying they were not the boss. Worker refused to take responsibility until HR apologized. The third story: shoe department manager consistently failed to post schedules. Staff warned they wouldn't work without them. Chaos ensued when no one showed up for their shifts. The first story is: you want the data exactly as you specify? Okay. Every year an external agency requests data from our company. The first time this happened, the accountant liaised with me on the requirements and the format I would send it to her in, Excel in a particular layout, to facilitate her data entry to the agency's webpage. After the first year and realizing this would be a yearly occurrence, I created a script and template. The accountant would give me the dates and a few other specifics, and I would send her the data within the day, hour if I felt like it. This year the accountant was on leave, so her boss, BA for boss accountant, took over and talked to me over the phone. I need the data for XYZ event. Oh, is it the yearly request? Sure, could I have the dates and specifics? No, this is new. You need to get me this data from that table and blah for another few minutes. I didn't bother to take notes since I was sure it was that same request, and already opened my scripts ready to input the new data requirements. Yes, that's what they ask for every year. I just need the… BA interrupts me. No, you're not listening to me. Do I need to speak to your boss? This is a new request. She paused to breathe and I quickly apologized. Oh no, so sorry. Please tell me what you need again. At this point, I already knew I was going to maliciously comply. Why else be so polite? BA repeats her requirements, and this time I take detailed notes, since she was so specific in which tables she wanted the data from as well. She takes inordinate pride in knowing the backbone of the system and how it works. Who was I, a lowly tech peon, to tell her otherwise? I apologized again and promised to send it to her by the end of the next working day, since it was, as she was well aware, really complicated. And urgent too, since there was a submission deadline. I took a coffee break and the chance to quickly update my boss about this priority request, and that my other tasks had to wait till this was sent out to BA. I told my boss what BA said. It's not the same yearly request. There were apparently some changes. But since the documents were so sensitive I could not review them, I only had her word on the requirements. And since it was so specific, I would give her exactly as she wanted. She should have gone to my boss first, if it was a new request, but she decided she would bully me into giving it to her urgently. My boss didn't want to get involved and sealed the deal for me. Give her what she wants. So I spent the next hour extracting large amounts of raw data and pasting them into Excel. Screw formatting and layout, BA knows what the raw data looks like. Auto-calculated fields and date ranges, pivot tables to organize. BA never mentioned that. How would I know? How could I guess? I sent it early. A large zipped Excel file emailed to BA. CC my boss on the urgent data requested. I sent it the next day just before our lunch hour. I knew she would see it before leaving for lunch and would want to check it for a chance to berate me ASAP if it wasn't exactly what she asked for. Spoiler alert, it was exactly what she asked for. She never spoke of it to me again. Her team wasn't happy that she was late to join them for lunch. They have to walk past my cubicle. I waited for the accountant to return from her vacation and gave her a few days before I asked her how this year's submission of external agency's request went. She was concerned. Was I on leave too? BA was manipulating a huge Excel file, and it didn't look like anything I've sent previously. She thought perhaps my boss has given her the data, since he wouldn't know what we had discussed and worked with previously. Turns out it was the same yearly request. BA spent a few days tediously doing what my scripts already do, and she could have, as the accountant has been doing, just copied and pasted from my scripted data. Edit. Control-D, my favorite shortcut ever, but you'll be surprised how stubborn some people can be about learning something new. I've met 3 people now who would rather click and drag and scroll that tiny little cross down pages and pages than highlight the relevant columns and hit Control-D. Edit 2. Oh, I left out this part because that seemed unnecessary to the main story. BA is actually relatively competent with Excel to the extent of knowing how to use VLOOKUP and pivot tables. But I usually aggregate the data in the database so there's a smaller, more relevant data set to play with in Excel before sending the edited Excel file over. OP had created a system that worked efficiently for both parties involved, but when a new person stepped in, they assumed they needed something different without taking the time to understand what was already in place. This led to a frustrating and time-consuming situation for everyone involved. What's interesting is how OP chose to handle the situation. Instead of getting defensive or argumentative, they maliciously complied and provided exactly what was asked for, but in a way that was time-consuming and inefficient. When someone has more power or authority, it's important to treat others with respect and not assume that you know everything. It just goes to show that sometimes people can be a little too specific for their own good. The next story is, oh, I'm not the boss? I had a job for a while where I was supposed to be the night shift quality control tech, but ended up running the entire shift because the supervisor was unreliable. He was eventually fired, and I officially ran the shift for a few months before a new supervisor was hired. We'll call him E. E was drinking buddies with the owner, and would often call off or show up drunk. In 6 months, I don't believe he ever worked a full 40-hour week. Everyone just kind of rolled with the idea that E was in charge on paper, but I was in charge in reality. E really didn't like that. He went crying to HR, and after yet another night where E showed up long enough to screw up everything and leave, HR called me in. The conversation went like this. HR, you know you're not the boss, right? Me, yeah. HR, E says the guys listen to you more than him. Me, hard to listen to a guy who's never here. HR, that's a bad attitude. I'm sending you to a class on how to deal with difficult people and you're not a boss. Me, so what do I do if E doesn't show up? HR, you're not a boss, you do nothing. Me, in my head, awesome. She then issued me write-ups detailing this conversation. 2 nights later, E calls off. I listened. The second shift supervisor calls me into the office to tell me what's going on and have me set the schedule. I'm not a boss. He asks me if I'm going to call the production manager. I told him to. No answer, big surprise, and he tried calling a few other managers. No answer. Workers are coming in. What are we doing? Don't know. I'm not a boss. The second shift supervisor set the schedule and left. He didn't get paid enough to deal with this either. The supervisors were the only ones with machine lock codes to fix faults. Press goes down. I'm not a boss. Hey, I need tooling only the supervisor can issue. I'm not a boss. Finally, my senior operator got fed up with sweeping. This is about 3 hours after his lathe went down on a simple error, and asked me for HR's number. Now that I can definitely do. Dial 9 for an outside line. He called her repeatedly for close to half an hour before she answered. He told her to get her A up to the shop and hung up. The whole shift, at this point nothing was running, sat in QC for about an hour before she showed up. HR, why is nothing running? Me, I'm not a boss. HR, well, where's E? Me, called off. HR, well then you're in charge. I reached into my desk and pulled out the training slip and write-ups she gave me earlier. Me, not according to these. HR, I didn't mean it like that. Me, then you shouldn't have wrote it like that. HR, what will it take to get you to forget that conversation? Me, an apology, cancel my class, and next time that alcoholic comes crying to you, tell him that we'll all start treating him like he's in charge when he starts acting like it. After the most insincere apology I've ever heard, I got everything running again and never heard anything about it again. Bonus? I got a new job a few months later and E quit in the middle of a full-on 5-year-old temper tantrum when they informed him that he'd have to cover my job until they found a replacement. It was beautiful and my senior operator got a nice promotion out of it. Edit. It was a small shop, about 50 employees total. HR was just the owner's wife who got the job, because how much damage could she really do? After 8 months, I had 70 HR write-ups, 25 different copies of the handbook, and a migraine that just wouldn't quit. I gave the quality manager my 2 weeks the same day she turned hers into HR. Neither one of us could take it anymore. Her husband politely asked her to be a stay-at-home mom not long after that, when roughly half the operators threatened to quit. It was something else, but I learned a lot there and landed a really good job as a result. Edit 2. When E actually decided to show up, I was supposed to make everyone go to him for anything not quality related. Since nobody ever knew if he was there, they would come to me. I'd tell them to go tell E, and he'd whine that they asked me first. Sometimes he'd be there and none of us even knew, since we hadn't seen him in 4 or 5 hours, so I'd just take care of the problem. A lot of times, since he never read the company communications, he'd have to come get me to fix the problem for him. Then he'd turn around and say I was undermining him. This story is a testament to the power of not just standing up for oneself, but also for the importance of doing what's right in the face of incompetence and unfairness. OP found themselves in an unusual position, running an entire shift despite not having the official title of boss. They did their job diligently, only to be reprimanded by HR for having too much influence over their coworkers. But when the real boss, E, failed to show up for work and chaos ensued, HR finally acknowledged OP's leadership abilities. Actions speak louder than words, and OP's ability to remain calm and composed under pressure paid off in the end. E ultimately lost his job while OP moved on to bigger and better things, is a testament to the value of hard work. The last story is, how hard is it to pick up shoes? Years ago, I worked in the shoe department of a huge retailer. We had a manager who was generally a really nice guy, but he had this incredibly annoying habit of being very late and posting our schedules. They're supposed to be posted on the wall by the punch clock 2 weeks in advance to give everyone plenty of time to sort out any conflicts without leaving a shift short-staffed, and we were generally happy to cover for each other. But with increasing frequency, it would be Thursday or Friday, and schedules running from Saturday on would not be posted. When we complained, he never got in trouble because he would meet the deadline for making the schedule and entering into the system. He just wasn't making the effort to physically post them for us to see. We started warning him that if the schedule wasn't posted by Friday, we would not be calling in on Saturday morning to find out whether or not we were supposed to be there. Company policy was that in order to be authorized to work a shift, it needs to be on your posted schedule, initialed by management if it's a change, to avoid people going into overtime or picking up a shift in a different department and screwing up payroll. Management would frequently say, if you're not on the posted schedule, don't come in. The day finally came. We showed up for our Friday evening shift. Schedule wasn't posted. We asked him to post it. He said he was sick of all our whining and complaining, and to stop asking him already. It would be posted before he left for the night. He left, schedule still wasn't posted. We were tired of covering for him and jumping through hoops to get a manager or HR to check the system for our scheduled hours, which is challenging if you're on the afternoon shift, especially after being spoken to like we were the unreasonable ones. So when Saturday rolled around, no one came in. The morning manager called the people listed on his manager copy of the schedule, but since none of us were on the posted schedule, and we were rudely told to stop asking about it literally 12 hours ago, it wasn't our fault. Everyone in the store hated our department because they thought our job was the easiest. How hard is it to pick up shoes? So the pandemonium that ensued was extra hilarious. Shoes literally everywhere, customers freaking out, people being pulled from all over the store to get yelled at by angry customers, phone ringing off the hook with specific questions about shoes needing to be put on hold, etc. Cashiers were livid, no one to do price checks, and they had to help pick up the shoes that had become a genuine safety hazard. Management got a hold of everyone who was supposed to be there Sunday, and it was the first time we happily came into a department that looked like a bomb went off, and put away about 15 shopping carts full of shoes, as well as what had been left on the floor when the closing shift finally gave up. People from other departments were a little bit nicer to us, and our schedules were always posted in a timely manner after that. Oh yes, manager got several calls from other managers who were furious with him, including the store manager. He tried to use the excuse, well, every time before this they figured out who was scheduled and came in, but that didn't get him very far. It wasn't always like that, and he was otherwise a good manager. Always accommodated requests for time off and rotated the weekend shifts. Employees in the shoe department faced a common problem that their manager seemed unwilling to fix. Rather than continue to cover for him, they took matters into their own hands and refused to come in when the schedule was not posted on time. The result was chaos and pandemonium, but it also forced management to take notice and address the issue. Sometimes, in order to effect change, you need to band together and take a stand. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.